Well, yeah, I think everyone's version of success is different, and that's the best part of living in this country. You can literally create what you want your life to look like and then go find it and go get it. What I like to focus in on and hone in on is what is your version or vision for what you want your life to look like? In other words, if you could describe your perfect nirvana, what would it be? And as I was coming through writing the book, three words just, Bethany, I kept seeing them everywhere: comfort, peace, and freedom.
This is the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, where we equip and empower leaders like you to thrive in and create harmony between your professional and personal lives. I'm your host, Bethany Reese, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking with best-selling author, entrepreneur, and blue-collar advocate Ken Rusk about defining and achieving success along your path in life. Ken Rusk is a best-selling author, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker who defied odds by achieving Wall Street Journal bestseller status with his book, Blue Collar Cash. He hosts the podcast Comfort, Peace, and Freedom, where he imparts wisdom on personal and professional fulfillment. Ken's impactful course, The Path to a Successful Life, empowers individuals to overcome obstacles and create their own success stories. With a unique journey that boasts multiple appearances on Fox and Friends, Tucker Carlson Tonight, and America's Newsroom, Ken's insights have been featured in Forbes, USA Today, Epic Times, Fox Business, and the New York Post. Notably, Ken's achievements are rooted in his unconventional path, as he takes pride in his lack of higher education. His diverse accomplishments include being an honorary commander of the 180th Fighter Wing Group and earning multiple awards like Top Workplaces in Ohio, Better Business Bureau Ethics Awards, and more than a dozen Franchise of the Year's honors. Ken's entrepreneurial flair shines as the founder of Rusk Industries, a growing portfolio of construction companies with revenue above 9 figures. Yeah, you heard me right, 9 figures. And collaborating with notable figures like Tony and Jarek Robbins, Tucker Carlson, and Evander Holyfield, Ken is actively shaping future American leaders. Committed to giving back, he supports organizations like Make-A-Wish, Tunnel to Towers, and Ronald McDonald House, and he teaches at Boys and Girls Clubs and Junior Achievement. With a wealth of experience spanning over 4 decades, Ken Rusk continues to inspire through speaking engagements on workplace culture, life design, and entrepreneurship. He's working on his next book, which deals with how small to medium-sized businesses can create the type of culture that attracts, inspires, and retains great employees, all while driving your business to new and greater heights. Welcome to the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, Ken. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Bethany.
Man, Ken, that is quite the intro. You have done so much, and you are, and I love it, you are giving back. You are all about serving other people and helping them on their path to success. So I'm excited to have you here because we have so many listeners all over the board, people that are just entering leadership, want to enter leadership, and those that are in leadership, working hard to continue their personal growth journey and not become those cynical leaders. So as we think about all these people in all these different areas of life, and you are kind of the path to success guy, I kind of want to start our conversation with, what is success? Like, what does that even mean? Because honestly, I think left to our own devices, I immediately go to, well, success obviously means the title and the paycheck. It can also mean, how big is my house? How many cars do I have? It can also mean, oh, this is the newest one. How many social media followers do I have? Am I an influencer? But my heart knows that's not right, but that's kind of where my head goes. So can you help us define success before we actually talk about this success?
Well, yeah, I think everyone's version of success is different, and that's the best part of living in this country. You can literally create what you want your life to look like and then go find it and go get it. And for me, I took a step back when I was writing the book because I knew this question would be something that most people would think, okay, if I go on social media, just like what you said, do I have a McMansion? Do I have 15 cars? Do I have a yacht? I mean, am I a rap star? I mean, that's not for everybody. What I like to focus in on and hone in on is, what is your version or vision for what you want your life to look like? In other words, if you could describe your perfect nirvana, what would it be? And as I was coming through writing the book, 3 words just, Bethany, I kept seeing them everywhere: comfort, peace, and freedom. Ooh. And it isn't necessarily the typical definitions of comfort, peace, and freedom that you might think of. It's more organic as to how you feel comfortable in you, who you are, and what your world is like, and how you present yourself to the world and how they see you. Your version of peace, what does that look like? For everyone, it's different. I mean, if I had 100 people say, tell me, draw a picture of how you relax, I'd get 100 different pictures.
Mhm.
So, and then the freedom part isn't necessarily, a democracy as much as it is, are you free from worries, from financial stress? Are you free to be spontaneous, which is an art form that most people have totally lost. So my definition of success is that it's a triangle of comfort, peace, and freedom.
I love that so much. And I love that you start out with it's what you define it to be. And I don't think in our hustle and bustle culture and how much we compare ourselves to other people, I don't think we stop to define what does success look like for me, Bethany. And that's so important that we stop looking left and looking right at what is success for them to what is success for me? What does that look like for my own life? I love it.
Oh, you're
So
100%, you're 100% correct there. And the thing is it's really interesting because you can either happen to life or life's going to happen to you. So either life is going to define you for who you are based on societal norms and expectations and what the herd is doing, or you're going to say, I'm going to cut my own path. I'm going to figure out what I want to happen to life instead of the opposite. Okay. I'm not going to live an if then life. I'm going to start with what the then looks like, and
oh,
then,
that's good.
back it up to today, and then go. And I think most people would find they're so much more happy, so much more content, so much more at calm of mind when they draw out what they want their life to look like and then divide it into a bunch of obtainable pieces and then start getting those pieces one at a time, because then you feel like this anticipatory power or energy comes over you and you just can't wait to wake up the next day. It's a really cool way to live.
That sounds awesome. I love it. And I can't wait to dive into every part of it, especially the financial freedom one. I think we all want that. But can we start for a second and just talk about what was your path to success? Can you just share what you defined as success in the path that you walked?
Well, when I was younger, it was always part-time jobs. I mean, I was everything. A paper route guy. I was a pin setter at a bowling alley when I was 13. I mean, I did everything. My father was like, listen, he had 5 boys under the age of 9. Okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
and we lived in a very small town. We didn't have any money. And so he could provide basic things for us. And we never felt like we missed out on anything, because you don't know when you're younger what financial status you're in, right? So,
Hmm.
but if you wanted more than that, if you wanted something extra, well, go find a way to trade labor for that thing, which is work, right? So I said, wait a minute, I can go work somewhere for like 10 hours and I can get that new aluminum baseball bat. And yeah, that's how it works. I'm like, well, get out of my way. Let me go do that, right? But then the things got bigger, and so the jobs needed to be bigger. And when I was 15, my high school shared a fence with an industrial park, and we used to cut through a hole in that fence to go to the carryout after school. And there was hustling, bustling businesses, and I was like, okay, I want my first used car. I want to be able to take my girlfriend out for pizza or go bowling with my buddies, whatever. So I got a job at one of these places that was right through the hole in the fence, and it was a ditch digging company, and I was wholly qualified for that. So um, yeah, I did that till I was 18, and then it was time to either go to college or not. They came to me and said, hey, look, you've dug ditches, you've worked in the office while you were in high school, you've done all these things on both sides of it. Would you help us open franchises around the Midwest? And so that's what I did. From 18 to 23, I traveled the country, lived out of a suitcase, and opened up businesses from scratch. And
Wow.
so I got tired of living out of a suitcase, and then finally opened my own place when I was 23 and a half, and moved to Toledo, Ohio, started with 6 people. And I think we now have like 200 and some. So it's been a heck of a ride.
That I would say so. And it's okay if you can't pinpoint it, but at what point in your life were you like, you know what, I'm doing what I feel like I was made to do? Like I feel successful.
That's a great question. I think the first time I coached somebody um,
Mhm.
and gave them the same thing that worked for me, not knowing if it would work for them. But here was this gentleman sitting in front of me that was and he was pretty distraught about where he was and where he was going. And we sat down and we just drew his vision for his life. And it was something that I had done before. It's kind of like creating a brochure for your life, if you will.
Mhm.
And we didn't even know what we were doing, but I guess I was coaching him somehow. And he's been with me for 39 years now. He's number 6 employee ever. And
Wow.
yeah, I felt like, okay, I think I'm onto something here, because if you can get people to understand that they really are in control,
Mm-hmm.
they're in control of their daily input, their daily output, the quality of that output, and therefore they can then be in control of their time, their schedule, their day, their financial gain. Now you've really got something there. And if you can create that intrapreneurial versus entrepreneurial, that entrepreneurial spirit in somebody who feels like they can gain what they want with and through your company, you've now got loyalty, you've got long term, you've got vision, you've got someone who feels like they're an owner. And they will create results for themselves first and for you and the company second. And that's perfect, because we all know, Bethany, that companies are linear creatures. So there's input on one side, and then there's creation of service or product or whatever, and hopefully then there's sales and revenue and profit. And you as the owner are always at the end of that line. So why wouldn't you want everyone in front of you to win as much as possible for themselves? Because then ultimately you win, overall.
I feel like you have mentioned so many things I want to dive into. I almost don't even know where to start. But in thinking about this, I want to go back to something you said earlier. When you were a young kid and you learned that, hey, if I go do something for a couple hours, I can buy that aluminum bat, then I could buy the used car, I could take the girlfriend out. Like it's a constant trade. And the second thing that you've said, well, you said a lot of amazing things, but you were just talking about, life doesn't happen to you. Think about the end, then, not if then. And you're really speaking against that victim mentality of everything's happening to you. You have more control and more say in how you show up, where you show up, what you're trading for. And I feel like that goes against all of our happy hours when we meet our friends after work. We're sitting there talking about how we're victims of the system, of the rat race, of all these things. And so, can you help us understand, like in talking with that guy, and then we'll talk about, the leadership aspect that you were just mentioning of helping other people win, but how do we take a step back from just getting up and doing the same thing every day and realizing that we actually have a choice in a lot of things?
Well, I would say this. The first thing I would do is I would walk down to the street corner and I would get a total stranger and I would say, "Excuse me, sir or ma'am, but do you know what my favorite color is?" And they would say, "No." And I would say, "Do
Yeah.
you know what my favorite car is?" "No." "Do you know what my favorite house would be? A farmhouse, a condo in the city, or a house in the suburbs, or a farmhouse?" "Nope." "Do you know what my favorite vacation would be?" "Nope." "Do you know what my hobbies are?" "I don't." "Do you know what my sports are?" "I don't." "Do you know what my favorite charity to give to is?" "I have no idea." See, only you know those things. So why are you letting other people determine what your destiny is going to be?
Yeah.
So the first thing you have to understand is, well, wait a minute. I know all these things and nobody else does. So why am I giving myself to the world and all their expertise
Yeah.
when I know these things? And all I have to do is arrange these things in front of me like a puzzle. And Bethany,
Mhm.
you know the one thing, if I took a 1,000-piece puzzle and dumped it on your dining room table, you would be really lost if I walked away with the box, right?
Yes, I need that picture.
Yeah. So why are we trying to build our life without the puzzle box?
Oh, so good.
So I would say create the puzzle box, put it in front of you, leave it in front of you, stare at it constantly, and then
Mhm.
just start every time you walk by, put a few more pieces down on that puzzle. Every time
Yeah.
you walk by, 2, 3 times a day, put 2 or 3 more pieces. And what happens is that you get the square, then you get the infill, and then pretty soon you get excited. I'm halfway done. I'm getting there. I'm
Mhm.
anticipating the finish. Same thing with life. It's the same exact thing. You prepare for so many things now that you don't even realize. Why aren't you preparing for your life? I mean, it's so easy for you to sit down and draw this out and then
Mhm.
allow that visionary, unbelievably powerful supercomputer that lives between your ears to involuntarily attract your body to that eventual result. It's free. It costs you nothing. You don't have to train for it. We do it already with like vacations and what are we going to wear today and where are we
Mhm.
going to dinner tonight. So plan that, do that for your life, be on track to anticipate and then progress through that success story. And then when you go to happy hour, you're going to have much different conversations with your friends.
I believe it. And I want everybody out there to appreciate how simple Ken is making this. Picture your life like the front of a puzzle box. What does that picture look like? You define it. And then the things that you do, all those puzzle pieces, you decide so that it's almost like you're living a so that life. I'm doing this now so that I am continuing to build this picture that I want, that you get to choose. I love it so much. Thank you for simplifying the complexity of just what am I working for? What is all this for? It's for the front of the puzzle box. That's how simple
Exactly.
it is.
Yeah.
It's so good. So now I want to transition to the leadership aspect. I feel like that was a lot of like personal development as far as what am I doing all of this for? But now, as we look to in leadership, we are all about leading and serving other people, influencing other people. And you had mentioned kind of the line of business is linear, and all of these individual contributors are doing the work and you're kind of at the end of that line, but you want to make sure that you are building them up so they have a great experience, they're growing, in their own personal development as well. And then I want to go back to what you said, that moment where you felt successful was the first time that you actually started mentoring really someone else and coaching and pouring into somebody else. So there's two dynamics there. One, staying others focused to make sure that everybody is growing and having a good experience. But then two, being intentional and pouring into somebody else. So can you talk into all of those things about leadership of that's another metric of success when we start shifting to be others focused?
Well, first thing to all the business owners out there, okay, this is going to be some harsh lesson for you. Drop the ego. Forget about the fact that you're the boss, you're the owner, you're the manager, you're the big guy or the big gal. Get rid of all of that. That's holding you back from being successful. Okay. You can stand there and tell me that you work 70 hours a week and you fixed this and you changed that and you yelled at this person and you created this and you motivated that and you set up this program and you went home. You don't know what your kid's first name is. You forget that they're in baseball and you have diabetes, high blood pressure, and the like. But you're the boss, and isn't that so cool? Wrong. You got it all wrong. I mean, completely wrong. You have to look at your business starting today and say to yourself, how can I make myself as irrelevant to this company as possible? Now that freaks people out when I say that.
Yeah.
Okay? Because they're used to like just doing it all. I'm Superwoman or I'm Superman. That's holding you back. So, and I'll prove it to you. So I wasn't like that, but I always knew that it's too much. I mean, you got to live a balanced life. I wanted to watch my daughter play golf. I wanted to hang out with my wife. I wanted to take my boat out or go golf, whatever it was. Yeah. And I wasn't going to work 70 or 80 hours a week just to prove I was the coolest guy in the block. So I started getting people around me to help share that load. Okay. And guess what happened? My company went way further than I had it when I was trying to do all this when I was younger, trying to be that guy. Okay. So one day I took some people into my office as an experiment, and I had 10 people in there. And these were all people that showed some entrepreneurial characteristics already. Okay. So I had them all get a piece of paper and I said, write down on this piece of paper, how much more revenue you think we could add to our bottom line this year. Okay. And by the way, before you write it down, know that I'm going to share some of that revenue with you, some of that additional revenue. Once you know it, that all their numbers were $2 million a year higher than mine was.
Wow.
So what am I doing? I'm my own self-limiter. So when people say, well, I can't afford to have an entrepreneur. Yes, you can. You can't not afford to, because the money that you're sharing is money you don't even have yet. So it's not like it's costing you a nickel, because if they gain, then you gain, and then they gain. Yeah. Right. So you have to really, as far as the leader goes, if you stood me with the 200 people in my parking lot right now, shoulder to shoulder, and someone took a picture of our group and you said, I'll give you $100 if you pick out who the boss is, I would not want them to pick my picture. I don't want to be that top down, yeah. I would rather be this collective of energy and amazing results and people winning all over the place. So for me, it was all about, if I can get a whole bunch of people to win in this building, the only way they can win is by creating results. And then the whole machine gets bigger. And then there's more to share. And then people take part in that. So when we do their monthly bonuses or their quarterly or their year-end stuff, or even the trips that we do, it's this family type of thing where people create results that they didn't think they were capable of doing before that. And 10 heads are way better than one. I don't care how smart you think you are. So again, that's harsh talk for some of these people, but I've had people where I'm like, well, you just get out of your own way. I mean, you're holding your company back right now. And they do, and they're like, oh, holy cow, I can't believe I ever had that stranglehold on that place, because these people are going crazy now and the whole thing's getting bigger. So kind of a different way to look at it.
And I love it. And I can totally see why you're writing that second book, because it's so needed. That culture, man, it can be positive and grow something. It's like soil, but if it's toxic and negative, it's going to kill things. It'll allow the weeds to grow, but it
Oh,
won't
for sure.
allow the good things. And I love it so much. And, and thinking about what you were talking about in the beginning of that, you said, I want more to life than just working 80 hours a week. I want to watch my daughter play golf, go on the boat, spend time with your wife, all of those things. And I think so often we forget to add that in our picture. We put buckets. We think about our career being one thing and our family being another thing, when really you have one life. It's one picture. And it all, there needs to be that I call it harmony between all of them. And I love that you're pointing that out, because I think that's so important, guys, as you're listening and deciding, especially, your own personal life. But if you're an entrepreneur, man, you get to decide what that business looks like. And you've just given such great advice on a culture that will grow wonderful people at a good time as well. You'll enjoy it. You won't dread going to work with those people, but also profits. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, and we take it a step further. I mean, I have these pre-made poster boards that they're like 2 feet by 4 feet, and they have all the categories. Like they have the word house in the middle, and then they have vacation on the upper right. Then they have health moment, and then they have sports or hobby, then they have charity, then they have car, then I even have pets, a dog or a cat. What color? What would you name it? I mean, we have all these things that surround your homestead that people will actually draw, and then they'll take one of those things at a time, or sometimes two or three, and they'll put it on this goal board that we have, that is this huge black plastic glass board, and it's got these neon magic markers. It's actually posted between the two bathrooms, so it gets seen a lot. and you can't be working in this company unless you have a goal on that board, something that you're actively chasing. And I don't mean you can just go up there and write, yeah, I want to be taller in 6 months. No, it's got to be like, we had a girl wanted to go to Spain to see one of her cousins. Okay, so $4,000. Okay, she was going to save $40 a week. She was going in 2 years. She had the date, the time, she signed it. Everyone gets to see that. So a year goes by in a flash, as you and I both know. And people are high-fiving her, and then pretty soon it's 18 months, and pretty soon she's getting ready to go. And everyone else in the company gets to see that, gets to acknowledge it, gets to put their hand on her shoulder if she stumbles or falls, gets to high five the win. And then as soon as she gets back, it's like, okay, now what? Now what are you going after? So this isn't something that, so many people get 3/4 of the way there, and it stops in hope land or dreamland or wish land, and that's as far as it ever gets. If you replace the word goal with the word pathway, now you have a specific thing you're looking at. It's not just a hope or a wish or a dream anymore. It's like a specific, it's a mechanical pathway.
Yeah. I'm actually taking action to get there.
Yeah. And now your whole body changes, because you live in this anticipatory moment. And pretty soon you're this goal crushing machine, and you're doing 2 or 3 of them at a time. It's a pretty cool thing to see.
That is awesome. I love it so much. And can you imagine, guys, just listening, working for an environment like that, a culture like that, where there's so much in stake of you as the whole person? I know that's kind of a buzzword right now, but still, there's more to you than just pushing the widget, doing the thing. It's more than just a job. It's the people that you spend a lot of your life with, right? As we spend such a huge chunk of our lives at work. That's awesome. And, as we think about success, we've defined it as far as you define it. You draw the picture on the front of your puzzle box, and then you develop this pathway that leads you there. What are the actions that you're going to take, the steps that you're going to take to lead there? But let's talk about the reality of the hiccups, the failures, that's not going the way I planned. How do we continue without being so discouraged when, not if, but when a challenge or a failure happens?
Yeah, so it's a couple things. First off, you start small so you get real confident, okay? And it can be something as small as, I'm paying off $1,000 Visa card that's just been bugging me, okay? And as you get through this process, you start small, you start easy, and you get really confident. And then you know that I'm only going to focus on something that's really real, okay? I'm only going to focus on an absolutely real goal. Two, you put it into action so that it's going to happen with or without you. I mean, all you have to do is wake up and breathe, and that thing's going to happen. And that's why where I talk about, you go to the payroll clerk, you get the whole thing figured out, you put it into action, and then you just watch the progress. But I think the most important thing is, and I wrote about this a little bit in the book, the first time I ever jumped off the high dive was probably the fifth attempt that I ever did it. Okay. And the only reason I did it on my fifth attempt is because I had 4 or 5 guys sitting on the edge of the pool that were my little buddies when I was 6 or 7 years old that were like, you got this, go on, come on, you can do this. If it weren't for them, I would have walked back off that board and it would have been 7 or 8 times before I jumped off. So picking somebody in your life that, and I know we use the word mentor, and that's a good word. We use it a lot. I just want to put that mentor on steroids because I want someone who believes in my goal as much as I do, is not going to sabotage my goal because they don't want to see me succeed like some people do, even though you think they're your friends or
competition.
Family. Yeah. But someone that's going to have their hand on my shoulder the whole way. And I'll only say this. Sometimes the goals that fail are the ones that you really didn't own to begin with. I hate to say that, but maybe they weren't totally there. And I've seen that many times over the past decades, okay? I will go up to the board and I'll see that it hasn't had action in it, and I'll just wipe it off. And they'll come up to me and they'll say, hey, my goal disappeared. What happened? I'm saying, well, was it real? Well, maybe it wasn't so real, right? So find something that you can't not have. You wake up in the morning thinking about it. It has to be that strong. And just know this. There's something in your brain, and I talked to Jarek Robbins about this, so this is really important. When you visualize something in your brain that you really want to come into your life, people call it manifesting or whatever. There's actually a neurological process that happens where neurotransmitters fire an electrical signal between two picture vision type things in your brain to see this picture. Well, the more you focus and stare at this thing, the more those build a connective bridge to the point where it's one thought that goes back and forth between these neurotransmitters. At that point, your brain thinks you already own that thing.
Oh.
So what it does is it involuntarily kicks your body into the pursuit of that thing, whether you know it or not. So now you're pursuing something that your mind thinks it already owns simply because you've been staring at it. Why wouldn't you use the power of that in your brain? Which is, you can't learn that in college, in high school. You can't learn that at any seminar. You can't learn that anywhere. Why wouldn't you allow the power of that to make sure that your goals are not if goals, they're only when goals? Okay. And
that's so good.
And that's why I'm saying you don't have to do it in 6 months. My first car that I bought, I put it out 7 years. People at the dealership thought I was nuts, but I eventually got it. So, but yeah, it's just a matter of making it a when goal, not an if goal. And that's the best way to do it.
I think that's so good. And so, people that walk away from their goals, I love it that you're challenging was it really even your goal to begin with? Because you're going to have bumps and bruises along the way, maybe a slowdown, something you didn't expect. Problems, conflicts, and constraints. I think we can all say those will always be there and be present.
Always.
But continue that pursuit, want it, and go for it. That's awesome. In turning to your book, Blue Collar Cash, love your work, secure your future, and find happiness for your life. Those are such big, meaty topics. Love your work. I feel like the culture that you just talked about a lot, and that I hope is going to be in your second book, is going to talk about how that will pour into it as well. But secure your future. You've also mentioned finances a lot. What point does finances play into that success for life?
Well, first off, I don't know why either our government or our education system doesn't teach the fact that you have basically 6, 7 year periods of time to save and invest money. I mean, if you think about it, from the time you're 21 to the time you're 63, right, is 42 years. If it's true that every 7 years your money doubles, then you have 6 of those periods in your lifetime. If you don't start saving until after you're 27 or 8 years old, or God forbid, 34, you missed 2 of the most important doubles you're ever going to get in your life, and you can't get that back. So I don't think people realize that how money, you can become a 401k millionaire by the time you're 21 years old in about 10 minutes, because that's all it takes the time is to fill out that paperwork. And we have 401k millionaires all over this place.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is you can save $60 a week for 10 years and stop saving money by the time you're 31. And when you retire, you're going to have over $1 million in your 401k. If you wait until you're 35, 40 to save, you have to save for 30 years to get half that money.
Yeah.
So if the final double takes your 500,000 to $1 million, that's a huge double, right? If you don't start saving until you're 27 or 8, you've missed that last double, which is enormous when it comes to financing. So just that piece alone, and the fact that companies give you a quarter on the dollar to match, or even more sometimes, where else are you going to make an automatic 25% on your money? I mean, that's, so just that one piece alone is what I don't, we should be teaching that in high school to get people to understand that. But then again,
so agree.
Living your dream the way you want it. I mean, can I chop my goals into pieces, and can I make those things happen without going into 6 full credit cards of debt and everything else? And we could probably eliminate Social Security altogether if we would just teach this in high school. When people come to work for me, I'll say, this job pays you $50,000 a year, and I'll say, now I want you to thank me for paying you $47,000. And they're like, but you just said 50. I said, I know. But the first 3, you ain't going to get it. You ain't going to see it. You ain't going to hold it. You ain't going to touch it. You ain't going to spend it. You ain't going to miss it, because that money's going away. Okay. You're going to live off 47,000. And guess what? You probably do all right, because just like a closet, the bigger the closet, the more you fill it with stuff. So if I paid you 50 and came back 3 years from now and said, now I want 3,000 of that back, you'd be like, oh, wait, I can't do that. I'm already used to spending 50, right? Wrong. When you get a job, give back the first 3,000 like you never heard it, you never saw it. Chances are you would have said yes to the 47,000, even though it was 50. So the fact that it's 50, give that 3 back, and then go to the bar, have a beer with your buddies, and say, guess what? My retirement's it's covered, and I'm only 21 years old. How many people could say that?
Not a lot. I love the fact that you're talking about financial freedom so much. So my husband and I, just not to dive huge into personal finance, but it is so important. We have a lot of cultural things where people are, in their 20s living like they've been in a career for 25 years, buying all these things,
right,
and living above their means instead of living beneath their means. So we have done cash envelopes for years.
Oh yeah.
And I'm talking decades. And every paycheck, still to this day, we pay money into envelopes. And I want you to, imagine like your retirement is one of those envelopes. You never miss the money. You don't. It's like once you get into that habit of chopping it off before it ever goes into your spend envelope or your debit card or wherever, you never see it. And can I just say, I love that you're making it so simple. You don't have to understand necessarily compound interest. You don't have to figure out all the maths and all the things. You don't have to be this financial guru. Just live beneath your means, chop off. I love how simplified you made that. Chop off the first 3,000 and go invest it in a 401k, or if you're in a system where you don't have 401k, a 403b or a Roth IRA, and there's so many different avenues that you can use, even if you don't work for someone who offers a 401k. And that doubling, I love how simplified you made that, will make you a millionaire. So all of you out there, they're like, well, crap, I'm in my 30s, 40s, or 50s and I've missed the boat. Teach it to your children. Help your children out
Yeah.
with that concept. I love it so much.
Or you just have to save twice as much as a 21-year-old does to try and
Mm-hmm.
catch up, even though, it would be a long time happening. But it's just funny because, you know, the time value of money, especially the time value of young money, is why is that a secret? I mean, why isn't that like one of your classes in high school? It drives me crazy. It's almost like, if I made you work out as your first hour of the morning, if I made you work out every morning at 8 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
but all right, well, I'm gonna get up and work out and then I'm going to work or school, right? But if I told you, hey, you know what, do me a favor, at the end of your day, can you try to find an hour to work out? You'd be like, nah, it's 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'm tired, I can't do it, I'm gonna go meet my buddies or whatever. You wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So why are you using money the same way? I mean, why are you hoping and praying and wondering if you're ever going to save money when the first bill you should pay is yourself? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a pretty simple, and that's why I'm sharing this stuff because, it's incumbent upon us that who've been lucky and blessed and successful and grateful and, to turn around and help people shorten their learning curves.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, just kind of bringing this all together as we, get close to wrapping up. The first thing is you've said, "Hey guys, you got to have the vision. What's the front of that picture box, the puzzle box of where you're working towards." But then the whole second half is like, "Hey, be a good steward of what you do have as you continue working towards that to make the trip a little bit easier, as you take care of things versus just squandering it. I don't know how else to say it, but squandering it. I love it so much. So you really are a mentor. You're being a mentor to, thousands of people, if not millions, through your book, Blue Collar Cash, through your courses, through just volunteering. I love it whenever I found out that you volunteer Boys and Girls Club, Junior Achievement. Like mentorship is constantly about looking at the next generation and saying, how can I help them? How can I take what I have learned and be a good steward of that and pass on that wisdom and that knowledge and that experience to the next generation? So I applaud what you're doing. So out of everything that you're working towards, as we wrap up, can you give us what are the key takeaways that you want our leaders listening to walk away with so that they can apply it in their life and leadership so that they have that success?
Well, no matter where you are at this point, today is the first day of the rest of your life. I mean, you've heard that a million times, right? And it's true. So, let's reset. Let's have you get the poster board out. Let's have you stay home this weekend and get some crayons. Chances are the last time you held a crayon in your hand was when you were 5 years old, but it was also when you were your most creative, your least stressed, you had the ability to go in and out the lines, whatever. I would say at least draw the picture of what you think you want your life to look like. At least get that far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because you control all of that. Nobody knows your nirvana but you. So again, stay home, draw the nirvana out. Just at least do that. Okay. Because you're going to start thinking, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe I do control the rest of my life. Maybe the herd doesn't control me. All right. And then again, figure out a way to break those pieces down and get them one at a time. The course, I will tell you, the course is $179 that I put out. It's 8 sessions. It's 45 minutes a session. You get a free book with it. I donate that money to charity. So this isn't like one of those $3,000 courses where, you're supposed to go somewhere for a weekend and give all this money away and hope your life gets better. I guarantee you, if you go through this course, and it's easy, it's all online, it'll help you draw that picture out, that puzzle box. I guarantee you, the minute you're done, you're going to look completely different at your life. Absolutely guarantee it. And again, if you do it, the money goes to those charities that we just mentioned earlier, like Make-A-Wish and Mom's House and all these other ones. So know that if you help yourself, you're going to help somebody else in the process. But I want you to call me or email me or write to me and say, oh my gosh, my world is different now because of those 8 sessions. And I want you to tell me how.
It's so awesome. And by investing that little bit of money, because at the end of the day, that's a little bit of money, is you're investing in your future. Because whenever we're like, oh yeah, I know how to do that, I can do it on my own. And then we just put it to the side and we never do it. But when you invest, when you put a little bit of money down, it actually adds skin in the game to where you go do that. And it's having you walk through the action of it. There's an accountability piece there that we just need. So I love it. I love that you offer that to everyone. I love it that it's out there. And I even love more how you give it back to the people that, need it with all those charities. So now I want to ask you the opposite. Okay, we know about creating that vision for our life. We know about breaking it down into those steps and continuing down that path. We know the resources now with your book, Blue Collar Cash, and the course. But what's one thing we should avoid? What's one poor decision that you would warn our leaders to avoid? Like, don't do this one thing. Come on, you're better than that.
Well, I've said it a few times, but they say that internalization requires that somebody hears something 5 times. And all I can say is don't listen to everybody else. Don't listen to Instagram and don't listen to TikTok. Those are at those people's best moments in time in the day. You can get inspiration from what other people do, but not comparison to what other people do. So just listen to yourself. Talk to yourself. You know who you are better than anybody else. So just don't listen to the societal expectations. Don't listen to the herd. If you want to be a carpenter and not go to school, go be a carpenter. God knows we need hundreds and thousands of carpenters right now. It doesn't matter, okay? I'll sum up like this. I don't necessarily care what you do for a living. I care a lot about what you do with what you do for a living.
Oh, that's good.
Which means as long as you're getting the puzzle box put together, I don't care what you do to get there. I mean, I'm a ditch digger. That was number 99 out of a list of 100 things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a race car driver. But this business allowed me to get everything and more on my picture box. So at the end of the day, who's winning? The person who has the life the way they want it, or the person who has to have that perfect way to get there?
Oh man, that's so good. Thank you for calling us out on that. That's so important. All right, Kim, where can our listeners go to learn more about you, your work? Where can they go to get Blue Collar Cash and the course, The Path to a Successful Life, and your podcast? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, I would like them to go to kenrusk.com. And when they go there, they can see pretty much all of it. You can see the book, the show. You can see the course itself. The new book, I'm about to put that up because we're about halfway written on that one. Nice. And yeah, it's a good place to kind of learn all about what we're doing. I'm also, I have a team that helps me because I'm not the generation of Instagram people. So, but I have a team that helps me do that. It's at Ken Rusk Official. Okay. And you can see what we're doing there on Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and YouTube and all those things. So
awesome. And I will have that in all of the show notes as well. So you can just click on it and go directly there. Ken, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, sharing your story, and just mentoring us through this process so that we can have success in our own lives. We thank you so much.
Thanks, Bethany. Great to be with you.
Appreciate it. Guys, until next time, continue putting in the work of building your life and leadership on the rocks, the essential rocks. God bless. Remember, the most essential rock you can build your life and leadership on is the rock of Jesus Christ. Today's Bible verse comes from Luke chapter 12, verse 48b. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. Hey, it's Bethany again. If you're enjoying the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode. Also, be sure to rate the show. We hope to earn 5 stars in serving you in leadership, and through your ratings, it'll help us get the word out about what we do here at Leadership on the Rocks. If you feel this podcast is helpful, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and coworkers, or anyone who wants to grow in leadership, but also have harmony between their work and home life. Thanks, and I'll see you again in the next episode.